to this beat.
Welcome to another episode. Welcome to another episode. Welcome to another episode of Gamecocks Talk with Captain Will. I am your boy. I'm your man, Captain Will. Make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe to Gamecocks Talk with Captain Will so I can continue to bring you that gospel of Gamecocks every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, you are now rocking with the best. And since you're rocking with the best, come rock with your boy, Captain Will. We got to go today, y'all. I said we got to go in today, y'all. We are talking about greatness on a whole different level, y'all. Greatness on a whole different level. We're talking about the South Carolina women's basketball team. We're talking about the South Carolina women's basketball team. Doing it like no other. 11-0. Number one in the net rankings. Number one in the AP poll. Number one in the college basketball world. South Carolina continues to set the stage, to set the bar, to raise the stakes on this women's basketball season. And how did South Carolina do this? How did South Carolina, who lost 7 players from last year's team? How did South Carolina, who had to replace 5 starters, from last year's team, rise to number one and have been number one for quite some time now? Well, I tell you this, because if you peel back the onion a little bit more, you already know. Recruiting is the lifeblood. Recruiting is the lifeblood of every basketball, football, whatever type of a program you have on your job. Recruiting is the lifeblood for that. And South Carolina has been sensational recruiting. So you have teams that try to change the narrative with their respective team, with their respective squad, by using the transfer portal and using the transfer portal to flip the culture, or flip the script and add multiple players to the team to try to get good quick, right? You have multiple teams to do that. And with the advent of NIL and that the space has changed, the landscape has changed. So you can have 3, 4, 5 players come to your basketball team. And ladies and gentlemen, you only have about 12. South Carolina only have 11 players on the team. But if you have 4 or 5 players that come to your squad via the transfer portal, you flip the roster. You have flipped the roster. But in South Carolina's case, that doesn't happen. The reason that we are so great every single year, because we recruit well every single year. Now, there are times the numbers aren't what they are because we have sometimes we only recruit, bring in 1, maybe 2 recruits because of the quantity that we have already on the team. Because Dawn don't like carrying, a full roster. She doesn't. You're never going to see a Dawn Staley coach team with 15, 14 players on this squad. You will never see that, y'all. It ain't going to happen. But the 11 that she has right now on this basketball team, the 11 that she has right now is the deepest roster that we've ever had. It's the deepest roster that we've ever had. Never in the South Carolina basketball history have you had 9 McDonald's All-Americans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I say Chloe Kitts, again, if you're new to Captain Will, if I say Chloe the Cobra Kitts is a McDonald's All-American, it is because she would have been a McDonald's All-American if she didn't decide to enroll at South Carolina early. Because Chloe was the 17th ranked player in the 2023 class. That tells me that she was going to be a McDonald's All-American. Book it, okay? So the roster that South Carolina has, 9 McDonald's All-Americans, 9 5-star recruits, 2 4-star recruits. It's the deepest roster that we've ever had. Will this team win a national championship? I don't know. I'll bet money on it that this team win a national championship. Would its team go down as one of the greatest teams that ever have lived in South Carolina history? We will find out as this season continues. South Carolina is number one with a bullet. Not South Carolina is number one with a star, with a circle around it, with a smiley face. That's South Carolina basketball. And like I said before, we are number one in the net ranking, number one in the AP poll. AP poll, don't really care for that whatsoever, but we're number one in net ranking. And the net ranking takes into account multiple things. Multiple things. Yes, it takes into account wins and losses. Yes, it takes into account scoring margin, but it also takes into account the venue of the games, home game, away game. It takes into account your offensive rating. It takes into account your defensive rating. It rolls everything up and it spits out the net ranking for the basketball team. And it also, don't forget, it also counts the strength of schedule. All those things matter to Captain Will. All those things matter. And South Carolina is number one. Number one. Strength of schedule, 18th in the country. 18th in the country. We're not going to talk about teams that we're going to play later that has a suspect record because they played the 295th ranked schedule in the country. We're not going to talk about some team that we're going to play in January. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to discuss that. This is a forum today. But South Carolina's 18th strength of schedule shows that Dawn Staley isn't afraid to play anybody. We're 5-0 against top 50 teams. Imagine that. 5-0 against top 50 teams. Wins against Notre Dame. Wins against Maryland. Wins against North Carolina. Duke. Utah. We got an upcoming game against East Carolina, December 30th, after Christmas break. And we'll discuss East Carolina another time. But the number one ranked team, 18th ranked schedule, which has some tough games going forward, we will get a better idea of how great this team is. Because this team is great. This team is great. The difference in this basketball team and the other basketball teams, which includes the two championships in 17 and 22, and the one that we would have won in 20 and almost went undefeated last year, is the pace of play. South Carolina is 31st in pace of play. 31st in pace of play. We've never been 31st in pace of play. We've always been in the hundreds, mid 100s in regards to pace of play. South Carolina is 31st in the country. So when you say you're 31st in the country in pace of play, you kind of think that you're going to fall off some in defense. Well, ladies and gentlemen, South Carolina is number one in defensive rating, which means that we're the best. Now, you it might not look the way that it has in the past, where you got a dominant stopper in Bree Hall, you got a dominant stopper in Leah Boston. What you see in South Carolina is a whole bunch of players that plays a lot of great team defense. A whole bunch. This is why we're number one in defensive rating. And now I get comments, I get mentions, I get DMs, I get all those different things that come at old Captain Will and says, Captain Will, they're not playing the defense that we are used to seeing. They're not guarding this way. They're not guarding that way. And the only thing I can say is, well, obviously we guarding everybody better than everybody else because we're number one. And we're number one by a large margin. So we are the epitome of a defensive team, South Carolina. So you have a quicker pace of play at 31st in the country. We have the number one defensive rating. But what makes it different, along with the pace of play, the offensive rating? We're the fourth ranked offensive rating, ranked team in the country. Fourth. Number 4 in offensive rating, number 1 in defensive rating, 31st in the country in pace of play. We always have scored buckets, inside. We've always had a high field goal percentage. And the field goal percentage is first in the country at 53%. First in the country at 53%, which is sensational. 2-point percentage is 10th in the country. 10th in the country at 56%. And we know how our offense looked in the past. We play inside out, dominant post play, and we still do that. We still have dominant post play. You shooting 56% from the two with a number one rated a team in field goal percentage at 53%. But what has set this team, why I say that this is the most talented, why I say this is the most special basketball team that has ever donned the halls of the Colonial Life Arena in the University of South Carolina is because we are number 2. We are the second ranked team in 3-point shooting. That is a statement in itself that South Carolina is the second ranked team in the country in terms of 3-point shooting. South Carolina. We could call it the many things. We could call it the change of pace. We could call it we could say Dawn Staley has changed her style. You could say that. Or you could say that we have one lights out Paopao. You can say that. Te-Hina Paopao, who's ranked 7th in the transfer portal, decided to come to South Carolina, left Oregon after 3 years, all Pac-12 multiple times, came to South Carolina. The preseason SEC first team did not include her. Sure didn't. She wasn't a big enough, I guess, name. She wouldn't make a big enough impact on South Carolina. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Te-Hina Paopao has made more of an impact on her basketball team than anybody in the country. Anybody in the country. South Carolina was 150 something in terms of 3-point shooting over the past few years. Te-Hina Paopao shows up not only number 1 in the SEC shooting the 3, not only number 1, top 5 in the country. Te-Hina Paopao. And that effect that Te-Hina Paopao has had on this basketball team has opened so many lanes. It has opened up the floor so much that not only you have Te-Hina Paopao shooting over 50%, you have Tessa Johnson shooting over 50%. Now, her sample size is a little bit smaller, but her minutes are increasing. Tessa Johnson's averaging 14.9, 15 minutes a game now. Tessa Johnson is averaging actually 53.8% from the 3-point line, which is 1 percentage point higher than Te-Hina Paopao, but she doesn't have the volume or the quantity to actually qualify. So in time, as Tessa gets more time, takes more shots, we will have the number 1 and the number 2 ranked 3-point shooters in the conference. We have 2 of the top 5 3-point shooters in the country. That is why we are so special. Then we can add on the Raven Johnson shooting over 40%. I think it's 46% from the 3-point line. You got Bree Hall, who's been on fire the last 6 games, who's shooting 41% from the 3-point line. This is why we're the second ranked team in terms of 3-point shooting in the country, because we're so freaking special at the 3-point line. This is why we are different than teams in the past that is put on the garden in black. This is why. Because we are better than you at your game. And the game has changed. You want, analytics and we got to shoot up threes. And Utah penalize you if you shoot a mid-range jumper. It's all layups and 3-pointers. That's the way they play. But you have a lot of teams. You have a lot of teams who play that way. You have a lot of teams who shoot a multitude of 3-pointers. You have Iowa. Well, a third of their shots are 3-pointers. You have a lot of teams who shoot a lot of threes. Well, South Carolina, we chose to do so and say we're gonna match your 3-point output. We could do that because we have better 3-point shooters than any team in this country. That includes teams that have Caitlin Clark. That includes teams that have Paige Beckers. That includes every quote unquote great shooting basketball team. South Carolina is special at the 3-point line. South Carolina's special 2-point percentage in field goal. We are special. And we assists. The assists that South Carolina had, we average 21 assists per game, 7th in the country. Assist to turnover rating is 11th in the country. We get a lot of assists compared to turnovers. Now, the turnovers are a little bit more than I want to. We average 14 turnovers a game. 14 turnovers a game, 45th in the country. But our assist to turnover rating is 11th. So I take those numbers any day of the week. Any day of the week, twice on Sunday, 3 times on Christmas Day. I would take those numbers all the time. Only number I'm not too keen is the free throw shooting. Free throw shooting has been a problem with South Carolina for many years. It could be because we are a post-centric type team, and a lot of times that the players that are taking the free throw shots aren't good free throw shooters. Right now, we're 281st in the country. 281st in the country, and that's bad. That's bad. That is the only flaw offensively with South Carolina. Only flaw. Ain't no more. Only flaw. And that 281st means that we shoot 66% in the shots that we make at the free throw line actually go in. Now, I would appreciate if we were able to up that up to about 70% as a team. That would be fine. That would be great. That would make us a little bit even more efficient offensively. But the numbers that I pay attention to is offensive rating. We're 4th. Offensive rating. 31st in pace. 1st in field goal percentage. 1st in 2-point percentage. 2nd in 3-point percentage. Those are the numbers that matters to me. We can say, there's so many different other avenues, so even with assists and turnover, but those are the numbers that actually matters, y'all. Those are what matters. Defensively, we are elite once again, number 1 ranked defense. This team is so special. So special. In terms of field goal percentage, on the defensive end, we're number 1. In terms of 2-point percentage, in terms on the defensive side of the ball, we're number 1. In terms of 3-point percentage, guarding the 3 ball, guarding the 3 line, we are 41st in the country, giving up 26% at the 3-point line on defense. Steals, 53rd. Block shots, 1st. Average about 10 steals a game. Block shots, we average about 10 block shots a basketball game. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say that we are greatness, experiencing greatness on a whole nother level, I completely and 100% say that unequivocally, that South Carolina is not only the number 1 team in the country, the best basketball team in the country, who's not afraid to play anybody, anywhere in the country or in another country. It doesn't matter. Because defense travels and shooters shoot the ball. South Carolina is much different than any other basketball team. And we can say that UCLA is similar to us in terms of size and things like that. UCLA can't shoot like us. They don't have the guards that we do. They have the depth that we have at the guard position. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 5. We have 5 5-star recruits at the guard position. 5. Nobody else have that. Nobody else have that. The 3 players we start at the guard position: Raven Johnson, shooting over 40%, shooting over 40% from the field, shooting 40%, over 40% from the 3-point line, averaging 6.2 assists. Te-Hina Paopao, shooting 50% from the field, over 50% from a 3-point line, averaging about 4 assists per game. Bree Hall, averaging 10 points a game, 40% from the field, over 40% from the three-point line. We have size. 5'9", Raven Johnson, Te-Hina Paopao, 5'9", Bree Hall, 6'1". And then coming off the bench, you got MiLaysia Fulwiley, 5'10". Special in so many ways. Special. Generational talent. And that's that word, because Dawn Staley said it so, early on in the season, it's been thrown around a lot. Yeah. She's elite. And only going to get better. But then you got Tessa Johnson, 6'1", who brings length, who brings size, and the prettiest butter rainbow three across the land. None of the teams have that. They might have two. They might have two elite guards, maybe three. But I dare to say any team in basketball don't have five. Don't have five. And I'm not saying that Tessa Johnson's elite yet. She will be. She has the potential to be. I would say that her shot is elite. I'm not saying that we are infallible, that we won't lose a basketball game this year. This is basketball. Sometimes the shots don't go in. Sometimes injuries happen. But I will say this right here. I will bet on any given day when South Carolina goes against anyone in the country, they will be favored. Anyone in the country. If it's on a neutral court, South Carolina will be favored because of how deep our team is. Vegas knows. They do the odds. They know what's up. They would do the odds. South Carolina is on a whole different level than these other teams. Greatness overload. This concludes another episode of Gamecocks Talk with Captain Will. I'm your boy, Captain Will. Make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe. You're watching right now. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Gamecocks Talk. Follow me on Instagram at Gamecocks Talk with Captain Will. You're now rocking with the best. And since you're rocking with the best, come rock with your boy, Captain Will. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.